we thought that we'd just sort of just chat with each other and just kind of have a discussion about a few things and get some questions off you guys about anything that you want to know specifically.
Arra gondoltunk, hogy beszélgetünk egymással, és
kind of give you a little insight into what sort of maybe long car journey conversation might be like when we get geeky.
Hosszú autóúton, amiről beszélgetnénk a trombitával kapcsolatban, aztán ti is felteltitek a kérdéseket.
That sort of thing. And then listen to some guys play and chat about how, you know, we approach playing things. That's right?
Aztán meghallgatunk egy-két srácot, aki majd játszik nekünk, és arról is beszélgetünk, hogy
So just before we start, I'd like, you know, we are very grateful to Conselmer Instruments for supporting this.
Nagyon hálásak vagyunk a Conselmer cégnek, hogy támogat minket.
And you can see there's some nice trumpets down here.
Hoztunk egy szép trombitát.
And if anyone wants to try the trumpets, you're welcome to come and try them at the break.
Or szünetek vagy utána ki lehet próbálni.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah,
cool. So,
how was warming up this morning, Lou?
Interesting. We were here last night. We saw the gig, and then had a few drinks, and then went to bed, and now we're here this morning drinking coffee, and we're going to do a little bit of playing, I think, just to start with, and then just get to kind of where we would be if we needed to be gig ready, I guess, yeah? So Ryan, what would you do when you put the trumpet out for the first time?
Well, I think certainly because Louis and myself do a lot of studio work, quite often together, and quite often the sessions start at 10 in the morning. And it takes a while to get there, so you have to get up early and then get to the studio, and I certainly don't warm up in the house before I leave. So when I get to the studio, I want to be ready to play as quickly as possible. Because I do, sorry. This is very strange. The voice in my head. I do believe that warming up doesn't have to take a long time.
Azt hiszem, hogy a bemelegítésnek, befújásnak nem kell nagyon sok ideig tartani.
You know, there's people who have routines that last maybe half an hour, 40 minutes.
Fél óráig, 40 percig fújnak be.
But I personally think that warming up can actually happen in a matter of a couple of minutes.
Azt gondolom, hogy néhány perc alatt is be lehet fújni.
You know, give or take, sometimes shots feel a bit terrible. So I like to start quite quietly.
Actually, to
jump in.
To go more on that, I remember when I was younger and I had this real headache about warming up. It was something. I mean, does anyone here wonder what they should be doing in a warm up? Do they think about it regularly? I mean, for me at least, when I was younger, it was something that I constantly.
Hogy kellene befújnom, van akik közöttek olyan,
ezen agyalnak,
hogy kellene pontosan befújni, mit kellene.
And we were at a jazz club like this in London called Ronnie Scott's, and I was with the lead trumpet player in the big band there, called Tony Fisher.
Tony Fisher az egyik trombitás az ott a big bandben.
And Tony is a total legend, and he played a lot of the James Bond movies, and kind of the number one trumpet player in the 60s and 70s.
He's now like 84.
Yeah, he's pretty old.
He's 84 years old now and still plays great.
So I was with Tony, and I was saying to him, I can't get my head around this whole warming up thing. You know, what should I be doing? Should I be doing an hour here? Should I be doing 10 minutes, you know, because I do the hour warm-up and then I'm knackered and I can't play anything.
És akkor őt kérdeztem, hogy kellene befújnom, kéne fél órát játszom, vagy egy órát, és nem tudtam igazából, hogy mit kellene tennem.
And he basically said, well, you know, does the trumpet feel the same to you every day?
Azt kérdezte, hogy a trombita minden nap ugyanúgy érződik, hogy ugyanolyan játszani rajta?
I was like, no, you know,
mondtam, hogy nem.
It always feels different. You know the feeling. It's like every day you pick it up, it's like, oh, it feels rubbish today. You know, the trumpet, you know, always seems to win. But he said if it doesn't feel the same every day, why would we be doing the same thing every day to kind of get to that main
Hogyha nem
sort of
ugyanolyan érzés
origin.
fújni minden nap, akkor miért kéne minden nap ugyanúgy befújnunk?
And certainly for some people, it's really important to do the same thing. I know that like Wayne Bergeron has like a small routine that he likes to do. We talked about,
Néhány embernek
and he
nagyon
thinks it's really
fontos,
important
hogy
to do
ugyanúgy
that. So
fújjanak be.
certainly, what some people, but what Tony said to me kind of resonated. I thought, you know, well, hang on. If it doesn't feel the same every day, then why am I doing the same thing every day? And
So
sometimes, go on.
Wayne Bergeron ugyanazt csinálja minden nap, és vannak emberek, akiknek ez nagyon fontos, hogy ugyanazt fújják minden nap, de
And you know, like
beszélgettünk, hogy nem ugyanolyan a trombita minden nap, úgyhogy nem is ugyanúgy kéne befújni.
I think what you're saying, Ryan, was that if you pick the trumpet up and it feels good, you can kind of just just go, you know. But
Ha
if
fölveszed
it
és
feels
szól, akkor csak fúj.
If it feels bad, you
need
certainly have to spend a bit of time.
and you need to get back to the place where it feels the same every day.
Akkor
And
addig kell fújni, amíg nem lesz jó.
that you may never get there. And if you don't get there, just put it away, you know. Just
Ha nem sikerül, akkor csak tedd le.
you go mad.
But you know, if you have to start, if you know, if you like I was talking about, you know, if you're on a session that starts, you got to be able to get there somehow.
Ha stúdióba kezdesz,
quickly.
akkor addigra
What I like to do is
tudni kell játszani.
play pretty quietly, just
Halkan
like Louis says, get it to the point where it feels right, which I don't think takes that long generally, and then just leave it, and then just trust that it's going to kind of happen, you know. Maybe if there's some high stuff to play, I'll probably warm up. You know, I'll probably do a bit of the thing that we're going to do. I think you've talked about this.
Olyasmit is kell játszani, amit majd fogsz játszani a
Or if
stúdióban,
it's something,
koncerten.
or if it's something
Magasokat,
quite,
magasokat kell befújni.
or if it's something. I feel like I'm being really rude every
Oh
time.
yeah, stop for a second.
If it's something quite classical sounding, I'll try and aim for that kind of articulation. Or if it's something quite jazz orientated, I'll try and just get my head in that space. So you kind of, I guess you kind of warm up to what you're doing in a sense as well.
Tudni kell, hogy nem fogsz majd játszani aznap.
Something I've figured out recently that is kind of one of those tips. I had like a period of time the last couple of months, or about 2 months ago, I wasn't enjoying playing much. You know, it's one of those times. We all go through it sometimes.
I have that every day.
Néhány dologra rájöttem, hogy néhány hónapja nem volt túl jó érzés játszani, és nem ennyire szólt a hangszer.
And every time I would pick the trumpet up, cheers, and do.
Just water.
Every day I would pick the trumpet up. At this period of time, I would be playing, and it didn't feel right. And I would do the practice, and then by the end of it, it just sounded worse. So.
És minden nap, amikor felvettem a hangszert, akkor egyszer csak nem szólt jól, és mire befejeztem a gyakorlást, addigra még rosszabb volt.
And I actually called up Wayne Bergeron about this, and we had a long chat.
Jöttem a Wayne Bergeron.
And we were just, you know, I was saying, well, you know, what's going on? Why isn't this isn't very fun? And he said, oh, where are you practicing? And I said, in my dead room at home. You know, like and you know the old story of sort of practice in the bad room, and when you go to the good room, it sounds better.
Azt szokták mondani, hogy gyakorolj a rossz terembe, és amikor átmész a jó terembe, akkor minden nagyon jól fog szólni.
We all hear that. And Wayne said, I don't buy that.
Azt mondta Wayne, hogy ebben nem hiszek.
And he told me that Doc Severinsen, whenever he goes to a new venue, he goes to like the stairwell, some like really reverberant room, and he'll do his first notes there, just to get the instrument feeling nice and, you know, sounding good, and then you can, you know, work from that.
Doc Severinsen mindig, amikor egy új helyre megy játszani, akkor elmegy a lépcsőházba, vagy valami jól szóló terembe, és ott gyakorol, csak hogy egy kicsit bemelegítsen, és úgy jól érezze magát a dologban.
And I feel like that sets you up thinking, like hearing something that you like immediately, and you can actually work from that much better, and you don't overblow. You're not trying to create this artificial sound that is impossible to get in a horrible environment.
Igen, hogyha elsőre már olyan hangot hallasz, vagy olyan dolgot, ami neked is tetszik, akkor onnan sokkal jobb elindulni, mint hogyha valami olyan teremben, vagy olyan helyen vagy, ahol minden rosszul hangzik, minden rosszul szól.
So that's just a small tip, just to bear in mind.
Csak
you know,
egy kis tip nektek.
It helped me a lot. So
segít nektek is.
But yeah, so cool. That's I know we haven't actually given you any information on the warm-up necessarily. Maybe we can do that now.
Igazából a befúvásra nem is beszéltünk, hogy mit játszunk.
But approach to it, everyone needs to do their own thing and find out what is.
De a hozzáállás az valószínűleg az a legjobb, hogy
conceptually.
Mindenki azt fújja, ami neki a legjobb.
But we played a couple of notes in the room for 5 minutes,
5 percig.
just before we started. And you're probably good to go now, right? Maybe, pretty much.
Készen is állsz.
Okay, yeah.
I think I'm okay
Azt hiszem, hogy
as well. I don't know. Go play a top G. No.
Well, flexibility comes into it as well.
Hogy a rugalmasság is meglegyen, az is fontos.
Does anyone? I was just trying to think how to phrase this. Just trying to think of other. Have you had any issues that you've solved in the last sort of 5 years that have kind of been that sort of light bulb moment?
Voltak olyan dolgok, amik ilyen, mint ez a villanykörte pillanat volt, hogy egyszer csak megvilágosodtál és megoldottál valami fontos dolgot.
I always feel like these are some of the best pieces of advice to give away because they're the ones that tends to take a while to figure out, but when they get there, it's like, that's the answer.
Próbálsz megoldani, aztán amikor odajössz, akkor rájössz, hogy fú, hát ez igazából.
I think for me, I mean, this is maybe gone into my life a little bit, but for me, I'm quite a lot older than Louis.
Sokkal idősebb vagyok, mint Louis.
And Louis quite a lot better than me
Sokkal jobb, mint én.
at a very young age, which is very annoying.
Ami elég idegesítő.
But when I started playing, it was all really just brute force and getting notes. Especially when I started playing lead trumpet, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was just like literally just like anything to get the note.
Igazából nem tudtam, hogy mit csinálok, csak az volt a fontos, hogy megszólaljanak a hangok.
When I was like about 21, I was playing. I used to tour with a band, and we were abroad somewhere, and I was playing a solo out the front of the stage, and it was kind of like a show band. It was quite famous at the time. So there was kind of the backing singers were dancing beside me, and they had tambourines and all that. And in the middle of my solo, one of the singers hit my trumpet while I was playing, and so the inside rim cut my lip. So to this day I still have a cut that opens up because it never ever healed. But it had to make me really think about how to play the trumpet because I spent it was years of kind of torture, not torture, but it was years of it was very frustrating that pretty much anywhere I would put the trumpet, it had to go in the place where the cut was because that's where the trumpet sat. That's where it felt best and I sounded best. But I tried everything. I moved the trumpet. I played on bigger mouthpieces. I played on smaller mouth. I literally did anything to try and kind of stop this cut from opening up. I'm rambling now, aren't I?
Mindig oda ment a fúvók, ahol a vágás volt, és nem találta meg a helyét, szóval évekig azon szenvedett, miután volt ez a baleset, hogy hova tegye a fúvókát és hogy fújjon.
I'm sorry, I'm talking too fast right now.
No, just take a little break. Okay.
I'm sorry. So one thing that I figured out was I have to find a way to play more efficiently.
És azt meg kell tanulnom, hogy kell sokkal hatékonyabban játszani.
And one of the things that made this possible was I realized that I was using way too much pressure for a start.
Túlságosan rányomtam előtte a fúvókát, arra rájöttem.
And I didn't keep my lips relaxed enough when I played because the mouthpiece did all the work.
És nem voltak elég jellazóva ezért az ajkaim, mert nagyon rányomtam mindig a fúvókát.
So one thing that I did was I tried to just play. I did lots of experiments. I never really had a teacher when I was growing up. My dad taught me. He was a trumpet player many years ago, and he taught me the chromatic scale and kind of went go. Pretty much. And my trumpet teacher at school was a Dixieland jazz player. So we just learned Dixieland tunes, which was great. But nobody really talked about how to play the trumpet. I just had I guess I had a natural ability. Well, maybe not. Nobody's natural. It's not natural. But yeah. But anyway, I figured out that I had to figure out a way to make the lips do less work.
Rájöttem, hogy kell azt csinálni, hogy az anzac kevesebbet dolgozzon.
So one of the things that I did was I tried to keep this really relaxed. I tried to keep this really relaxed, and that allowed me to not use as much pressure.
És akkor nem kell annyira rányomni.
I still use pressure, but I think you have to for certain things, but it's nothing like as much as I used to use.
Nem úgy, ahogy régen.
And as a result of that, I think my play became much more efficient, and the sound became better, and just life was just a bit easier. I don't know if that was really rambly.
No, it's fine. I mean,
does that make sense?
I think we talk about efficiency a lot. I mean,
hatékonyságról sokat beszélünk.
There are a few reasons for this that I've realised as well as I've gone on. It's a lot of the time as well. You're playing into a microphone, you know, or you're in a studio, and the sound guy seems to have more control over your sound than you do.
Sokszor mikrofonban játszol, vagy stúdióban vagy, és a hangmérnöknek sokkal több befolyása van arra, hogy szól a hangszer.
That's the real reason you became a great engineer.
Ezért te is nagyon jó hangmérnök
lettél. That's always worth bearing in mind when you're playing in bigger venues or even, you know, in the studio environment. But
nagyobb koncerttermekben, meg a stúdióban ez fontos tudni.
The thing is about efficiency is that I think a lot of people because you know the instrument is, you know, all the sound is just going away from you.
Az összes hang, ami kijön a hangszerből, az elfelé megy.
You have to almost trust that you're being heard sometimes. Like we could be.
Csak el kell hinned, hogy hallanak az emberek.
We could be in a section playing together, and we can both play loud. And Ryan can play particularly loud. But there's at work you need to just trust. You know, it's work. In the end of the day, no one wants to go to work and overwork. You know, you need to be able to do what you can. You know, and the effort that is required for what you need to do needs to be almost minimal. It's an efficiency thing.
És ez azért mégiscsak munka, és senki nem akar ugye túldolgozni magát, szóval nem akarsz több munkát beletenni, mint amennyi szükséges, tehát nem kell megszakadni, hogyha úgy is lehet csinálni, hogy
And I think if you're monitoring the situation, be it monitors on stage or ears or just at the back of the section, sometimes you can't hear yourself, and what you do is you just blow harder.
Sokszor nem hallod magad igazán egy nagyobb zenekar, vagy hangosabb színpadon, és csak hangosabban játszol.
Sometimes when you blow harder, you actually get quieter. Depends on how hard you're blowing.
Ha erősebben fújsz, sokszor halkabban játszol.
But I think the key to great trumpet playing is to the best way to put it is to say that you should be using the least amount of air necessary to get the desired result.
Az egyik alapszabály, amire rájöttek, hogy a legkevesebb levegőt kell használni.
That's
ahhoz,
not,
amit el akarsz érni.
Yeah.
Sorry, finish.
That's not to say that air isn't important.
Az nem azt jelenti, hogy a levegő nem fontos.
But it's important to realize that the reed of your lips is only going to go. The air needs to be used. There's no other better word than just efficiently, and you will get a better result over time, and it will look easier and it will sound easier, and you know we've all seen. Sorry, go on, do that bit.
No, I was just going to say that was.
One sec.
Sorry.
Szóval
not me, him.
A levegőt, sorry. Ha használod, akkor sokkal könnyedebben fog minden szólni, és könnyedebben fog nézni, és sokkal több mindent meg fogsz tudni csinálni, hogyha jól használod fel a légzést.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Ez érthető?
Yeah.
That's kind of exactly what I said, but he put it much better.
Én is ezt mondtam, csak ő sokkal jobban elmondta.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the basic key to being able to play in the upper register as well. It's like
ez a magas hangokhoz is a legfontosabb.
We were talking about this yesterday, who here wants to, you know, who wants to improve their upper register?
Tegnap is beszélgettünk erről, ki az, aki a magas hangjain akar dolgozni, és azt jobban akar szólni a magas regiszterben. Ki az, aki bevallja.
But I think it will be. We could tell you a few exercises.
Tudunk néhány gyakorlatot is mondani.
But I think we're actually talking with Andy in the car, and we were kind of saying it wasn't really exercises that gave us the ability to do it. It was
Arról beszélgettünk Edivel a kocsiban, hogy nem a gyakorlat.
It was more
értünk el oda, ahol
a combination of desire when we were younger,
az elhivatottság vagy odaszállás, amikor fiatalabbak voltunk,
and then understanding of the physics behind the instrument
és a hangszer mögötti fizikának.
as we got older that backed up the desire part of it, and then we realized that we could refine it.
És amikor idősebbek lettünk, akkor
and it is just basically a timeline of light bulb moments that get you to a point where you can do what is necessary, and a lot of that might be luck, and a lot of it is common sense, I think.
Van egy idővonala ezeknek a nagy rádöbbenéseknek, hogy mi hogy működik a trombitával kapcsolatban, és ha ezeket az ember sorba rakja, akkor eljut oda, hogy
I don't know about you, but the whole trial and error thing for me, when I was, growing up, and still to this day, by doing it, I learned how to do it, rather than, like Louis says, I don't think there's set exercises that improve, being a lead trumpet player. I think you have to. I think in many ways you have to figure out your own playing and your own body and your own physicality.
Actually, to add to that, I would even go as far to say that a lot of the exercises, and that's not to say anything individual isn't useful, but a lot of the exercises actually distract from the real issue. The real issue is...
elmennék, hogy azt mondanám, hogy nagyon sokszor a gyakorlatok, vagy az etüdük igazából eltávolítanak a valódi problémáitól.
The real issue is like, when I was at college, there were some amazing classical trumpet players, absolutely amazing players. But they would say to me, when we were in the band room,
amikor főiskolán voltam, akkor nagyon nagyszerű trombitásokkal voltam együtt, és azt mondták nekem, amikor a zenekari teremben voltunk.
They would say, how do you play high? Can I try your mouthpiece? Can I try your trumpet? And they would look for a quick, simple fix to a very, very complex situation.
Azt kérdezték, hogy játszol ilyen magasan? Megnézhetem a fúvókádat, a trombitádat, hogy ez mitől ilyen szó, és valami nagyon gyors, instant megoldást voltak kíváncsiak.
And I would say it was so complex that I would even consider them to be playing almost a different instrument to the one that I am. Not physically, but lead trumpet and classical trumpet, they're super different approaches.
Annyira nagyon nagy a különbség a lead trombitálás között, ugye, ami a big band a magas hangot játszol, meg a klasszikus trombitálás között, mint a két külön hangszer lenne, és ezért nem tudta nekik.
And I'd always ask them, well, how do you play a pianissimo top A with a perfect sound every single time, and then do some crazy triple tonguing thing?
Akkor én is ilyenkor megkérdeztem tőlük, hogy játszol mindig egy magas át pianissimóba, aztán pedig valami minden egyes alkalommal tökéletesen, aztán pedig valami tripla nyelves dolgot, azt is mindig tökéletesen, ez hogy lehet?
And usually their answer was, well, I practice it,
Általában azt mondják, hogy hát gyakorlom.
And I mean, it sounds so obvious, but it's true. And then I would ask them, I'm like, well, do you actually practice playing the upper register? Do you actually just...
Megkérdeztem, hogy gyakoroljátok a magas hangokat is.
And a lot of them would say no, they kind of want a quick fix. Not the individual players say that they want the quick fix, but I got the impression that that's what people are after.
És sokan azt mondták, hogy hát ők nem gyakorolják igazából.
When in actual reality, it's a whole other way of thinking about the instrument, and it's a whole other commitment to the instrument. You have to, like, even committing to small equipment. We can start talking about equipment as well at some point, but committing to small equipment is a commitment that you have to make at some point.
Yeah.
És ez egy elköteleződés igazából valamelyik irányba, és ez a kisebb
we both started
hangszerek meg fúvókákkal kapcsolatban, és így van, egy ponton meg kell hoznunk ezt az elköteleződést, hogy mi kisebb.
We both started playing on 1 1/4 C's, Bachs,
Egy negyedes Bachon kezdtük.
I mean, when I first started playing on a 1 1/4 C, and when I first heard Maynard Ferguson, I thought I should be able to do that on that mouthpiece.
Egy negyedes C van ilyen?
Because I didn't know what Maynard played on, I just assumed everyone played on a mouthpiece like this. So I spent a lot of time really killing myself
Sokáig
to try and do this.
gyilkolta magát, hogy próbált olyan
And yeah, just talking about these light bulb moments. A light bulb moment for me was I was in a big band rehearsal when I was like 15.
Egy nagy megvilágosodás az akkor volt, amikor 15 éves koromban egy big band próbán voltam.
And one of the trumpet players beside me played on a 10.5 C.
És az egyik trombitás mögöttem egy 10 és feles.
And he said, "Try this."
Mondta, hogy próbálj ezt ki.
And I'd got to a point where I could play a pretty good top G on a 1.25 C.
Azt gondoltam, hogy
because that's all I knew.
Egy nagyon szép magas tudok játszani.
I put this mouthpiece in
Beraktam ezt a kis
and aimed for a top G and got the loudest super C. And it was kind of like, okay, there's something in this.
Yeah. I had a similar situation, but going on to smaller equipment was, playing smaller equipment isn't easier.
Kisebben játszol, akkor ez nem könnyebb.
You still have to be employable. You still have to be able to make a nice sound. And
akkor is szép.
We know that the first noticeable change when you go to smaller equipment is that it sounds worse.
Az első dolog, amikor kipróbálod a kisebbet, hogy rájössz.
But so much more exciting.
But that's why I would suggest that it was a commitment to move to a different way of thinking about the instrument.
Ezért az elköteleződés, és az is fontos, hogy egy más hogy állj hozzá a hangszerhez.
And again, like the warm-up, this isn't to say that there aren't people who can play big equipment and low compression mouthpieces to achieve this, but
vannak emberek, akik nagy hangszerrel és nagy fókást tudnak játszani.
Small is better.
De a kisebb jobb.
2018.
Or I should say high compression. High compression is better for this.
A nagy nyomás, a kisebb fókával az jobb ehhez.
I mean, just to follow on from that, I mean, I know the answer to this because I know Louis, but I play a lot of different mouthpieces depending on what I'm doing. I think it's okay to change.
Én nagyon sokféle fúvókán játszom, ahhoz képest, attól függően, hogy mit kell játszanom.
Rather than smacking your head against the wall, it's like I have to do everything on this mouthpiece.
Fejedet feléd a falba, hogy mindent egy fúvókán kell játszani.
No, if I'm doing something and it's maybe in an orchestra and it's something that's quite classical, I'll put in a 3C. That's big for me.
Klasszikus zenekarba kell játszanom,
and it's so much easier to make a good sound. Instantly, it just is. And if I'm, if I'm doing something, I've got various mouthpieces that I use depending on what I think is the right thing for that thing. Do you have that same kind of concept? Do you change mouthpiece from time to time?
I use this for about 97% of things I do.
I mean, I reckon I'm the same.
Yeah.
It's a small percentage of things that you
that
change.
Just shows how much classical music we play.
Yeah. we're not in demand classical players, I can't believe it.
But yeah, I play. That's what I mean by the commitment. I chose to try and be versatile on one mouthpiece. But again, I've seen Phil Cobb with 15 mouthpieces here, and he sounds unbelievable on every single one. So
elhatároztam, hogy én ilyen nem fogok játszani, de ott van a Phil Cobb, aki 15 különböző fúvókán játszik egyszerre.
So again, there's no rules to this. We're just giving you insight into how what we do.
Szabályára, csak egy kis belsős infót adunk, hogy mi hogy csináljuk.
Unfortunately, there are no rules.
Sajnos nincsen szabály.
Does anyone have any questions for us at this point?
Van kérdéseitek most ezzel kapcsolatban? Fúvóka meg persilelés.
Must be covering everything.
Go on.
Did you cover up the physics of the instrument at your point of view?
Concept, yeah.
Hangszer, elmondhatod magyarul is a kérdést.
Csak hogy a saját szavaival foglalja össze, hogy szerintem hogy működik a cső.
What does that mean?
He just translated his own question.
Oh, sorry. Just to get something there. No. Okay. Topic 2, physics. We were talking about this yesterday. Sometimes a misconception on aperture and airspeed. Sometimes some people think of it one way, some people think of it the other way. When it comes down techniques and methods, like I tried the Maggio out before. Start there.
Szóval sokszor az emberek rosszul gondolkodnak a levegő sebességről, meg az anzatról. Van sokféle megoldás, de what was the name?
Maggio.
Maggio.
Yeah.
On a trombone.
I like trombone. Yeah.
I think it actually works better than trombone. So who's tried the Maggio system? Anyone tried the Maggio
A
system?
Maggiót valaki kipróbálta már ezt a
Yeah, a
rendszert?
few people. Now, I would say I will go into the physics, but this is like a precursor, something. I feel like that system, the thing I learned from that was mainly the pucker, just to kind of push the chops forwards. That was, go on.
Amit ebből tanultam, hogy kicsit előrébb kell tolni az anzatot.
And I feel like that, adapting to that helped with endurance.
És ez segített a állóképességben.
And begun the transformation into a slightly different setup here that allowed me to play for longer and easier.
Segített arra átállni, hogy hosszabban bírjam és könnyebben szóljon.
But the Maggio for me, I feel is inefficient if taken too literally.
És azt arra is rájött, hogyha túlságosan szó szerint veszel mindent ebből a Maggióból, akkor az sem feltétlenül jó.
Because it relies on you playing everything with a huge setup which is inefficient and uncomfortable.
Mert azt várná, hogy mindent nagy hangszeren, nagy fúvókkal játszál, ami nem hatékony és nem kényelmes.
It works for some people amazing. So
van akinek ez nagyszerűen működik.
I mean, but by accident, when I was talking about the way I used to play, I kind of stumbled upon that concept kind of by accident. Keeping the chops a bit more cushioned, so that the trumpet has something to sit on.
Amikor én is kísérletezgettem, akkor én rájöttem erre, hogy az anzatot egy kicsit jobban össze kell sűríteni, és akkor
so there's definitely elements. I mean, I think there's definitely elements of many methods that you have to take that from here and that from there, and you figure out what's good for you. Sorry to interrupt.
But it's right. It's fine. It's good. There's a brilliant video online of James Morrison explaining the physics of how to play in the upper register.
Van egy nagyon jó videó James Morrisonról, ahol elmeséli, hogy elmondja, hogy kell magas regiszterbe játszani.
And I watched the video and I just thought, right, okay, well you put it in such great way. I can't really explain it any better than that. It's absolutely amazing.
Megnéztem, akkor gondoltam, hogy hát ezt nagyon jól elmagyarázza, nem is tudnám.
But a quick rundown of what I think in terms of something he doesn't talk about, which I think is quite an interesting way of looking at things. Even if it's not 100% correct, I think it's a really good analogy.
Még azért valamit elmondok, még hogyha nem is 100%-osan tökéletes, de ez egy nagyon jó
is how open your chops are, or your aperture is generally how loud the sound is going to be.
Ahogy tartod az anzacodat, olyan hangos lesz majd a hang.
And the speed of the air is how high it's going to be.
És a levegő sebessége pedig a magasságot.
Now, I like to kind of think of it. I spend quite a lot of time looking at waveforms on Pro Tools or Logic. You look at the waveform.
Akkor ezeken a stúdióprogramokon, a Pro Tools vagy Logicon megnézed a hanghullámokat.
And if a waveform is bigger, like taller, then it's louder.
Hogyha nagyobb a hanghullám, akkor hangosabb.
But a sine wave, if the wave is zigzagging close together, it's higher, and if it's longer like this, then it's lower.
Hogyha cikcakos közel egymáshoz, akkor az egy magasabb, hogyha egy ilyen
so if you put that,
akkor az egy mélyebb hang.
If you pretend that that's your airstream, if you want to go higher, you're going to make the zigzag faster air.
Hogyha magasabban akarsz játszani, akkor ezt a cikcakot kell gyorsabban.
If you want to go lower, you'll make it slower.
Hogyha mélyebben, akkor...
And if you want to go louder, you'll make it taller.
Hogyha magasabb akarsz lenni, akkor...
Now, I don't know how much that relates to the physics directly.
Nem tudom, ez mennyire...
But it's a really nice way of thinking about it.
Így magyaráznak a fizikusok, nem tudom, de ez egy nagyon jól szemlélteti ezt.
The other thing we spoke about yesterday, because we chat quite a lot about trumpet because we're geeks.
Elég sokat beszélgetünk trombitáról, meg kockák vagyunk.
But the other thing that we spoke about yesterday, along with Andy Greenwood, who you're going to get to hear if you come to the gig, who is in here somewhere. But we were kind of chatting about aperture size, just to slightly get back onto what you're talking about. And basically, to sum it up very, very quickly, you play on a small mouthpiece, you want to have a more open aperture in general.
Hogyha kisebb fúvókkal játszol, akkor egy sokkal nyitottabb.
And if you're playing on a big mouthpiece, you want to, in general, have a smaller aperture.
Hogyha nagyobb fúvókkal, akkor zártabb.
And I think I agree with that. Where strength comes in, we all talk about embouchure strength and how strong your chops. Overrated. I mean, I could do this weird thing. I haven't really played much, but I can do this weird thing where I don't need to use my corners. So, I'll explain that quickly.
Szóval az erősségéről is beszéljünk. Tudom ezt a furcsa dolgot csinálni, ahol nem kell használnom.
Not use
a szája szélét nem használjuk.
And I don't know. It must have something to do with the way that I blow the air. When the corners come down, it obviously sounds, but this does not sound good.
Nem tud jól szólni, de hogy azt nem feszíti meg a szája szélét.
But I think it's sort of a bit strange, and it explains something to do with corners. But so
sounds amazing.
Yes, it's great. Yeah, that's not how to play the trumpet. But what I think it does say is that everyone uses their tongue in a different way to actually push the air through their teeth.
Mindenki máshol teszi a nyelvét, hogy igazából kitolja a levegőt a fogán.
And if you are to backtrack slightly on strength and endurance of chops and muscles.
Állóképesség meg az erősséggel kapcsolatban, meg az izmokkal kapcsolatban.
I think it was Maynard who said something. Maynard said something about. I have to ask Eric about this, but Maynard says something about his chops not being any stronger than anyone else's or something, and he used his whole body in the whole yoga thing.
Maynard azt mondta, a Maynard Ferguson, hogy az ő andata nem erősebb, mint bárki másé, hanem ő az egész testét használja meg jogán.
Part of the explanation that James Morrison gives about strength is you imagine holding a piece of paper out car window, and if the car is driving slowly, you can hold on to it quite easily.
Ahogy a James Morrison magyarázta, olyan ez az egész, mint egy papírlapot kitartanál egy autóból, és ha lassan megy az autó, akkor könnyű megtartani a lapot.
But as soon as you start going faster, you have to hold on to it tighter and tighter and tighter, and eventually it'll fall out of your fingers.
Ha gyorsabban megy az autó, akkor egyre erősebben kell fogni, aztán egyszer csak nem tudod már fogni.
And in that analogy, the air is the speed of the car, and your chops are your fingers holding onto the piece of paper.
Úgy kell képzelni, hogy a levegő az az autó sebessége, és az anzatod az pedig az ujjaid, ahogy kell fogod a papírt.
And I think it really helps to explain why you need strength, and not strength doesn't. You need strength to hold your chops down, because if you blow too hard, they just spring open.
Ezért kell erősség vagy állóképesség az anzatodnak, hogyha túl erősen fújod, akkor egyszerűen nem tudod megtartani.
But that is it. There's no more to it. This is just a vibrating reed. And the faster you can make the reed vibrate, the higher you can play.
És minél gyorsabban tudod ezt rezegtetni, ugye annál
and that's where we get to air compression.
És akkor most a levegő kompresszió.
And compressing the air in your body is how you make the air go faster.
És hogy ezt meg tudod csinálni a szervezet vagy testedben, hogy kompresszálod a levegőt, így tudsz magasabban.
And this is where there are loads of theories on how to compress air.
És akkor nagyon sok teória van, hogy kell a levegőt.
Just over to you. Well, just briefly, just to back up what you're saying, really, the way that I've always thought about strength, physical
ahogy én gondolkodtam az erősségről.
And it goes back to an efficiency argument.
Hatékonysággal is kapcsolatos.
If you were hold your arm out like that. So for him to hold his arm out like that doesn't take any effort. So for me, that's like playing a low C.
Ez egy mély, a C ez nem egy nagy erőkifejtés, hogy így tartsa a kezét.
And then if you're playing a C above that, maybe you're going to feel this amount of pressure, but for him to hold his arm, he has to put a bit more effort in.
Ez egy ilyen erősség rajta.
And then to play a top, higher note, there's more effort involved to hold the shape.
Még több erőt kell kifejteni, hogy tartsa.
But when you go back low, why would you have the same effort if you're playing low? So you can relax now.
Nem mész, akkor miért tartád meg még ugyanolyan erősen?
I think it's quite a common mistake for people to make to always think about, right, I have to keep my corners really strong all the time.
Hiba, hogy mindig a szájszélét meg kell.
I agree. If you're playing low, I think only put the effort in that you need to play any note at any given time.
Erőt fejtsék ki, amennyire szükséged van.
Why make it hard for yourself? Make it easy.
Meg a saját dolgodat.
And another analogy.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. Another analogy is the bike pump analogy, which I quite like.
Van még egy hasonlat, biciklis.
When we talk about actual pressure on the face, it's not that. Well, I personally don't think anyone sounds very good if they don't play if there's like no pressure technique. I just don't think it sounds very good. I'm yet to hear someone sound really great all the time when they put absolutely no pressure on their face.
It's lies.
Nem lehet igazából jól szólni, hogyha valaki semmiféle nyomást nem.
And I think that is to do with, obviously we need to create a seal, because if we start blowing faster air, then it blows your chops open and you start getting leaks out the side of your chop.
Nyilván valahogy ezt le kell zárni az azatodat, mert hogyha hangosabban, magasabban játszol, akkor az egyszerűen szelelni fog, hogyha nem feszíted meg.
And part of stopping the leaks is your muscles, but the other part is actually the pressure.
Annak, hogy az egyik része, hogy megakadályozza ezeket a
lékeket,
hogy izmok, first is the muscles and
then the pressure of the instrument.
És a másik az, hogy valamennyire rá kell nyomni a hangszert.
And where the bike pump analogy comes in is, I learned this from someone a very long time ago. I thought it was fascinating. Is if so, one side of the bike pump is your air and your effort and your energy, and the other side of the pump is the trumpet. Start with that.
Bike pump.
Bicycle.
Yeah, szóval az egyik oldal a bicikli pumpának
one side is you, the energy and
the egyik az te vagy és a te erőd, a másik pedig
and the other is the trumpet.
A másik a trombita.
Now, if they aren't working in equilibrium, then one will work harder than the other, and let's say that you were putting too much energy into the instrument without sealing, you would end up just leaking everywhere, and you're not, and that's not good. It's kind of only using one side of the bike pump.
Hogyha túl sok erőt fejtesz ki, túl sok levegőt fújsz, vagy nem zárod le eléggé, akkor
but if you aren't putting enough energy into the instrument and you're just ramming it on, you're going to do damage, and also you're most likely going to stop the vibrations from happening in the first place.
Ha pedig nem fejtesz ki elég erőt, és csak rányomod, akkor pedig meg fog sérülni.
So it's about figuring out the equilibrium of both the trumpet and your energy.
A trombita rányomásának balancba kell lenni azzal, hogy te mennyi erőt fejtesz ki.
Does that all make sense? Yeah.
Érthető? Én kezdem meg.
Cool.
That's a very long answer to your question.
Yeah.
Is
that enough to know about sort of physics? I mean, I really recommend checking that video out if you haven't seen it. The James Morrison one is amazing.
James Morrison video fönt van a YouTube-on, nézzétek meg.
It's really good. Anyone else got any questions before we keep talking? No? Just find out what the time is, because we need to make sure we factor in time for...
Yeah.
So, it's 11 o'clock.
Should we play something? I don't know.
Can do. They're going to hear us in a couple of days.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a break at the hour.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yeah.
And then we'll hear the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Egy kis szünet, és utána...
Oh, you have a question?
Go on.
Erről még beszélt, hogy ők a kisebbet választottak. He's asking about the mouthpiece, how did you choose the exact one that this is gonna be the best one?
Okay. Well, I'll start with me. I have literally played on, I don't know, 50 mouthpieces over the last
50 különböző
25 years.
fúvókkal játszottam az elmúlt 25 évben.
So I don't know if this is forever.
Nem tudom, hogy ez örökké tart-e.
It's forever for now.
Most örökké tart.
But I guess that the things that I've been most comfortable on all have something in common.
Amelyikkel jól éreztem magam, azok mind valami közös volt bennük.
One being they're high compression mouthpieces.
Az egyik, hogy ez magas nyomású,
as Lou was saying, and I guess that's about it really. Varying degrees of depths, varying degrees of width, but I'm personally more comfortable on a mouthpiece that's not too wide and not too shallow. So kind of
különböző mélységek, szélességek voltak, de én akkor érzem a legjobban, hogyha nem túl széles és nem túl mély.
Literally trial and error, and whatever feels the most comfortable and sounds the best. You know, I remember doing a gig with Derek Watkins when I was very young. So if you don't know who Derek Watkins is, he's another London legend trumpet player who's sadly no longer with us. And he said a really interesting thing to me, and this is in the days where I was playing on a big mouthpiece.
Akkoriban nagyon nagy fúvókkal játszottam.
And he said, if you want to play lead trumpet, find the smallest mouthpiece you can manage to get a good sound on.
Azt mondta, hogy a lead trombitást akarsz tenni, akkor keresd meg a legkisebb fúvókát, ami még jól tud szólni.
And that really stuck with me.
És ez megmaradt bennem.
And that's because if you go to work every day, you don't want to be overworking. Like, really important. You got to be smart. I mean, if you're not smart on the trumpet, it's going to win, you know.
Hogyha nem akarsz megszakadni minden nap a munkába, akkor okosan kell csinálnod, hogy ne szakadj meg.
And sure, it's horrible. No.
Essentially, we hate trumpet.
For me, mouthpiece, I've been playing this for 6 years.
6 éve játszik ezen.
Which is...
It's a lot of your life.
Yeah, it's like a quarter of my life.
Élete egynegyede.
Yeah. So, it's good. It's Wayne Bergeron's mouthpiece.
It's Wayne Bergeron fúvókája.
And he's pretty good, so... So, you know.
Can I just jump in very quickly?
Yeah.
I played on this mouthpiece for a few years.
Néhány évig ő is játszott ezen.
I was in a very bad car crash about 6 years ago.
6 éve volt egy nagyon rossz autóbalesete.
And I had a beautiful old Constellation trumpet.
Volt egy régi
that Louis hated.
Trombitája.
Because it was quite clunky and it was quite, you know, it didn't work great, but I could play on it because I played on it for many years. And I played on a Maynard Ferguson Warburton mouthpiece, which is very narrow but very deep. The cup kind of does this.
It's like a French horn mouthpiece.
Yeah, but it's based on a French horn. But when I was in the car crash, the trumpet was destroyed. My back was very bad, and I couldn't play for many weeks. So to get back into playing again, I thought, right, I'm going to just change everything. And like, you know, Louis says, you know, a lot of the guys in London were playing the Wayne Bergeron mouthpiece. Fantastic player called Tom Walsh who plays on it. Louis plays on it. There was a few other people that were kind of getting into this. So I thought, okay, I'll play this mouthpiece. But after kind of maybe 3 or 4 years of struggling with it, I realised that just
you weren't struggling.
Maybe I didn't sound like it, but it certainly felt like it. I just wasn't quite the one. And it was a commitment to make another change, you know. So I recently changed onto this, which is kind of it's a Roger Ingram mouthpiece, and I think it's based on like a Giardinelli 10S, which I also have,
Jardinelli 10.
which is what Derek Watkins played on. Was a Jardinelli tennis. And I have
Annak a hasonló
a couple of old Jardinellis, and they're all very different. But yeah, it seems to be okay for now. So I really wanted to be able to play on this mouthpiece because he plays on it, and Wayne plays on it, and some other people that I really admire. I thought, well, if I play on this, I'm going to sound like them. No.
Yeah, this is a commitment because it's so comfortable. When you come off it, everything hurts.
Ez neki nagyon kényelmes, és amikor máshol játszik, akkor
You should try this
nem
actually.
fáj.
It's quite. This has got quite a comfortable rim.
I'm not trying anything.
No.
Like it.
Nem próbál ki semmit.
I think the things that are similar between these two mouthpieces, the rims are quite
Flat.
They're not like that. You know, they're kind of like that.
A széle le van kerekítve, és ez hasonló neki.
This may not be the one forever, but I worry about trying things because I don't know whether you guys ever pick anything up and you go, oh, this is amazing, and you find yourself on a honeymoon period with whether it be a new horn or a new mouthpiece, and then you buy it and then you go, I don't like it anymore, I prefer what I used to. And
Félre próbál ki menni, mert volt olyan.
some people like to do that.
Kipróbál valamit, megveszi, és olyan, mint a mézes hetek lennének, aztán
So
megveszi.
I try not to blame the equipment where I can. You know, I play a brilliant trumpet and it's expensive, so that's proof that if something's not working right, it's me. So I try not to change. I played the big mouthpiece until I was 14.
Szóval most van egy nagyon jó trombitája, ami drága is, úgyhogy ha valami nem működik jól, akkor valószínűleg ő lesz. És mondta, hogy nagy fúvókkal játszottam, ameddig
And like Derek said, I would actually go as far to say that most people play equipment that's too big for them.
Ő azt gondolja, hogy a legtöbb ember olyan felszereléssel játszik, ami túl nagy neki.
And that's because a lot of people, in my opinion, might be lazy to invest time into sounding good on small equipment because the payoff for that is so big because you can do what you want to do and not work so hard.
Legtöbb ember túl lusta ahhoz, hogy időt fektessen abba, hogy kis fúvókán és kis hangszeren is jól szóljon neki, pedig a gyümölcsei nagyon jók.
I mean, Louis mentioned Phil Cobb earlier.
Phil Cobbot említette már Louis.
So Phil Cobb is one of the principal trumpets in the LSO in London.
Az LSO-ban ő az egyik principal.
And he's a truly amazing player, truly amazing.
És nagyszerű játékos.
And like I've been on sessions with Phil Cobb where he's literally had 10 mouthpieces. Every take a different mouthpiece.
10 különböző fúvókát
Never not any of that.
Virtually doesn't split any notes. But the mouthpiece, the kind of sizes that he generally plays on are what you might consider small for a classical player.
És viszont amikkel játszik, az egy komoly zenészhez képest kicsi.
He never plays on like a 1 1/4 C, anything like that size.
Nem játszik.
They're much smaller, but he, you know, they're still low compression, but for you know, they're not massive. They're kind of quite medium sized, but he makes such a. I think as a result, he makes a much bigger sound because he finds things that are kind of suited to him rather than everyone plays a 1 1/4 C, so I should do it.
Nagyobb hangot tud fújni, mert olyan fúvókat használ, ami sokkal jobban
to add to that,
hozzá, vagy neki.
I would go as far to say when I say that most people play equipment that's too big for them, it's also because they think that bigger means bigger, and it doesn't always.
Sokszor az emberek azt hiszik, hogy a nagyobb az nagyobbat jelent hangban is, de nem mindig.
Trumpet players like Conrad Gozzo in that era back in the 50s and 60s played smaller instruments than we do now.
Az 50-es években valami nevet.
I use the word instrument because mouthpiece is different.
Hogy kisebb hangszerekkel játszottak, mint mi.
And arguably they sounded way bigger than anyone does today.
Sokkal nagyobb hangjuk volt, mint
So that's just worth considering. You may find yourself being able to produce a bigger sound out of smaller equipment because it's more efficient for you.
Lehet, hogy a kisebb hangszeren sokkal nagyobb hangot tudsz majd fújni, mert sokkal hatékonyabban tudod kihasználni.
Yeah.
I have a short question. What do you think about the practicing it? Do you use them or not?
I don't.
I don't like them.
A gyakorló szordinókat kérdezt, hogy használják a srácok, ők nem szeretik.
They have their uses. There are two uses that are good for. One, hotels.
Hotelben nagyon jó.
And two, if you're in a show and you have to like change your concept mid-show to be maybe a bit more classical, and you've just been ramming it on, you've just been playing really high and loud and fast, and but then the next entry is 10 minutes later, and you have to play with a beautiful sound. I can see the use of putting it in and just having a little tinkle, making it work. But I wouldn't say that it was.
Akkor lehet még jó, hogyha egy olyan sót játszol, ahol az első felében magasan, hangosan, gyorsan kell játszani, utána van egy 10 perc szünet, utána meg valami komoly zenét kell játszani, akkor be lehet rakni és ott halkan a háttérbe.
I think that it does the same. I think it does the same thing as playing in a bad room. I think it.
Olyan, mint hogyha egy rossz teremben játszanál.
It doesn't. You're not hearing the instrument the way that your brain wants to hear it, and if your brain hears it differently, you'll do things, and you'll develop bad habits to accommodate the bad sound that you're getting out of practice music.
For me, it changes the feel of the instrument too much. For me.
Túlságosan megváltoztatja a hangszer.
So the way that the air goes through the instrument is completely different. So this can't be the same. So for me, they're bad.
Yeah. We're quite negative, weren't we?
That was pretty negative, yeah.
Wicked.
So if you're using a practice mute, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's useful.
Cool. Do we have any more questions at this point?
Kérdések? He plays always on bigger mouthpieces, and he's trying to experiment with smaller ones. And what he annoys him about smaller mouthpieces is how to say that the width of the bore. That is too small, and it's just pain. So maybe he just has to get used to it.
So you feel they're too tight to blow through?
Túl erős, vagy túl nehéz átfújni yes.
What I would say. What I would say.
Back.
Yeah. So what I would say is to compensate for that, you have to open your aperture more.
Nagyobb lukat kell hagyni az adatodon.
Or you play better on big mouthpieces. Seriously, like, I mean, it is that, but as I say, it is a commitment. To just briefly go back to it, I used to have a student, he was great, he played in the, I think it was the Navy down in Portsmouth, but he really great player, you know.
Volt egy tanítványom, aki a katonaságnál volt Portsmouthban.
He played James Morrison's mouthpieces, and that's pretty big, you know.
James Morrison fúvókán játszott, ami elég nagy.
But he would put the small mouthpiece in the middle of a tune to play the high note.
Berakta a szám közepén a kis fúvókát, és hogy a magas hangokat játsza.
And he would go, oh, you know, I might split the note because I'm putting a new mouthpiece in, and I'm not in the right mindset and all that, you know. And so I said, okay, well, let's just play the small one today and see what happens.
Mondta, hogy fél, hogy gigszerezni fog, mert ugye...
And he wasn't very...
Mondta, hogy csak játszunk a kicsivel.
He wasn't really very comfortable under a high C, you know, like it.
És a magas cél nem volt kényelmes.
Wasn't used to it, and I said to him, can you go away and just play this mouthpiece? You know, he's a hardcore practicer. He did a lot of practice.
Meg tudod csinálni, hogy csak ezen a kicsi játsz, és azon gyakorolsz, ez elég nehéz ezen gyakorolni.
But his job at that job was to do some orchestral things, and it was to do marching, and it was to do this, that, and the other, and he found those things at the time easier on the big mouthpiece.
De ott kellett indulókat játszani, meg mindenféléket, és az neki sokkal könnyebb volt a nagyobb.
And I eventually persuaded him to just give it a go and just change, just make the change, and see where he was.
Erre bátorította, hogy változtasson, és csak a kicsin játsz.
And 6 months later he came back and he was flying all over the instrument on a small mouthpiece and he said he loved it. So.
Mondta, hogy 6 hónappal később visszajött, és mondta, hogy sokkal jobban szól, és
and now that's his primary mouthpiece and he puts the bigger one in when he wants to cheat.
Most már kicsin játszik, és ugye nagyobbat teszi be,
akar. As I say, it's a commitment. It's a different way of playing. And you just need
elhatározás, elköteleződés, és egy másfajta játék a kis fiókán.
Is that cool? Is that cool?
Érthető, ez oké?
Cool. Brilliant.
Én azt kérdezem, hogy akkor ezek szerint ezeken a kis fiókákon tehát nem használnak semmi hasonló méretű nagyobb fúvókát.
Befújáshoz? So do you warm up in the small mouth?
Just this, all the time. Yeah. Cool.
Csak azt kérdezem, szó volt erről a fúvókáról, de hogy méretben mit kell elképzelni, hogy ez egy síltő vagy egy bak méretéhez képest az, hogy kis fúvóka, vagy mennyire kis fúvóka ez a mindenki.
So how small are these mouthpieces compared to a Schilke or Bach size?
That size. Pass it around if you want to see it. It's cool. No idea.
Don't know. I don't know what this is either. You can have a look at this if you want as well.
No one wants to see that.
No, nobody wants to see that. So it's a bit different.
So that these might seem small,
Choose one.
but I would say that they aren't that small for what they are.
De annyira nem kicsi. Nem annyira
Nekem például nem sokszor probléma ez, probléma az elmúlt időszakban, években, hogy az, ami igazából viszonylag stabilan szólt fönn, vagy amire én úgy gondolom, hogy ezzel próbálkozom, vagy ez a jó szó, az egy program keretén belül nagyon sokszor nem látjuk be. Megszólnak, hogy ez a hangszín nem túléles, nem tudok vele egy bizonyos hangerő alatt játszani.
So he's playing that.
Mutatnák, hogy milyen ezeken a fúvókákon egy általuk képzelt piano, vagy milyen egy forma, csak hogy halljuk azt, hogy ők egy piano alatt.
So he always gets criticism. He's playing lead trumpet as well. Because he's using small ones, and the sound is too bright or too. Not the quality they want. So.
Who's saying these things?
Guys in the band or band leader, a zenekarvezető mondja, vagy ki mondja? Többiek a zenekar?
Hát általában igen, a zenekarvezető.
The band leader says that, and so he's asking like, can you show him like a piano or some different colors in this small.
Again, I think you have to. I think with a lead type mouthpiece like these, the thing that is going to be more difficult is playing quiet. Certainly quiet, medium, high stuff. You know, like between C and top C, quiet stuff is challenge. So you just have to practice it. You know, so if you're practicing, so what I do quite often is I practice, you know, some classical things, Arban, just to try and still sound, you know, because if you've got a concept of a sound in your head, you'll be able to get something towards it, you know.
I think being able to play in the cash register, we call it the cash register, like between low C and high C, with a nice sound, is the most important thing. But if you feel like you can play high on something, but you feel like you could work your way down, then that's cool. Because coming down the stairs is much easier than going up the stairs. So approaching from this way is cooler than that way, in my opinion.
A magas C alatti oktávba kell nagyon jól szólni, de hogyha a teteje jól szól, és lefelé sokkal könnyebb menni a lépcsőn, mint fölfelé. Szóval ha onnan ott jól szól, azon dolgozó, hogy lejjebb is egyre jobban szóljon, az valószínűleg könnyebb is.
But you can play quietly on these. I mean, I'll give you an example of something like. it's not as orchestral as a bigger mouthpiece, but you can get away with it, you know, and then you can do the whole other thing on its own.
Mint egy nagyobb fóka, de azért ezzel már el lehet érdekelni.
They're versatile, you know, enough. Yeah. Cool. Wicked.
Well, if there's no more questions now, maybe we'll have a short break.
Tartunk egy kis szünetet most.
And then when we come back, I believe we're going to hear a couple of people play to us.
Koncert az vegye elő.
So, thank you.
Cheers.